Like, holy shit.
The only road in or out.
Anyway, let's talk about the Florida residents recovering from the damage left by Hurricane Ian.
Manuel Bojorquez traveled to that once thriving tourist destination, one of the prettiest spots in the world, in fact. It's now in ruins. And we find Manny in Fort Myers Beach, another hard-hit area. Manny, good morning.
God damn, what a fucking picture.
Good morning, Tony. More than half of the total deaths from Hurricane Ian occurred right here in Lee County, and you can see this devastation around us. Also hard hit, as you mentioned, Sanibel Island, which is virtually uninhabitable. We were able to reach it by boat yesterday to see what's left. You can see they're having to use barges to bring in heavy equipment and trucks. That's because the causeway here, well, there are entire chunks of it that are missing, disconnecting this island from the mainland. In the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, Sanibel Island hasn't just been damaged, it's been left isolated too. From above, the extent of the destruction is staggering. Trees flattened, homes shredded, roads ripped apart by sand and mud. But from the ground, a clearer picture emerges of just how life-changing Ian has been and will be. The scenes here on Sanibel Island are almost...
Hey, I'm from Chicago area, and I'll have you know, MLK thought the area was racist as fuck. Don't sell the North Shore. No, man. America is a fucking series of incredibly racist people trying to figure out who's less racist. I never said these places aren't racist as fuck. Of course they are. That's America, man. America is just racist. That's just, you know, our nation building project hinges on genocide and slavery.
Almost apocalyptic. You don't see a soul in the streets. There's not barely a sound here except for a few birds and some of the helicopters that are still doing rescues and bringing supplies in and out. More than 2,000 residents have been rescued and evacuated in Florida since Ian made landfall, including Lacey McClary, a local artist who was airlifted to safety from Sanibel Island.
Yeah, I can't believe it. That's still here.
We traveled with her across the bay over the weekend at what used to be her studio on San Carlos Island. McClary recorded the storm as it tore through her friend's house where
Incredible
they wrote it out.
Florida behavior.
When we were on Sanibel Island, she asked us to check on her house. So unless things have moved around, I think this is her house based on all the paintings. It definitely looks like it's destroyed. As local officials sweep Sanibel Island to find survivors, some evacuees are returning to see the damage firsthand, like the Jankowskis brothers who took a boat here.
Devastation is unreal. You know, it's kind of sad to see. It's horrible. I mean, you walk down these streets, you can't even recognize what streets they are. It's a tragedy, and that's all you can pretty much say. Florida officials have defended the timing of evacuation orders here in Lee County, which went into effect less than 24 hours before Ian churned ashore. They've said that they issued those. They went into effect as soon as the storm's track put the county in the bullseye. But take a look. Forecasts from the days leading up to landfall show that at least parts of the county were always within Ian's projected cone, even when a direct hit looked unlikely. President Biden is expected to visit.
Florida is in a unique situation because it's Florida. So, on the one hand, of course, like they didn't give enough warning signs ahead of time. But on the other hand, because they did fuck it up. They did. They only informed a mandatory evacuation warning was only given out, I believe, like what, 24 hours prior instead of 48 hours prior. And not only that, but also on top of that, Floridians, and I'm sorry to say this, just don't want to fucking leave when a hurricane is coming down their goddamn street. Like, the Florida government is dog shit, but Florida people are just literally like, oh, that's a hurricane, whatever, I'm not leaving my house. Like, how do you think she filmed that? I mean, look, what do you think happened here? How did she film this?
We tracked video on house where they wrote it out. When we were on San...
She didn't leave. She was there.
House where they wrote it out. When we were...
That's fucking insane. What the fuck are you doing? It's hard to evacuate and the media always overhypes these storms. No, man. That's why you have to... I'm from the Gulf Coast, and literally all of us pretend that the hurricane is being overhyped. We all think we're stronger than the storms, Lamont. No, 100%. To be fair, it's mostly a culture that avoids the horrendous road infrastructure in Florida that can't support a mass evacuation. There's always a time, though. There's always enough time. If you get enough time that, like, a category 4 is coming your way, you should step out of its fucking direction. But again, most of this is the fault of the fucking governor and the state of Florida, okay? Like, the state apparatus should have been way, way more deliberate. Ron DeSantis has gone out on the record, I think like 8 times since Hurricane Ian hit Florida to be like, well, you know, we are Floridians, and as Floridians, we stay home. Some of us did not want to leave, and that's okay because it's your own prerogative. It's our freedom to not go outside. It's our freedom to stay indoors while the hurricane is happening. It's like, how do you say that? The liberal media making Cat 4 hurricanes seem more dangerous than they are. Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, what's the problem? You know what I mean? What's the issue? I don't understand. It's just a category 4 coming into my island. But we're not even talking mainland. You know what I mean? We're talking island, motherfucker. Where does the water go? You're on an island. Now, of course, the hilarious part about it is that these are the same fucking people that didn't want to, that couldn't stay inside their houses during COVID.
Real, you know, it's
just like to be a Floridian is to be in a permanent state of contrarian behavior. Okay. Oh, do I have to stay home because of COVID? Fuck no, not gonna do that. Oh, do I have to go outside, leave my house because of a category 4 storm? Fuck no.
House where they wrote it out. When we were on HasanAbi Island, she asked us to check on her house.
So unless things have moved around, I think this is her house based on all the paintings. It definitely looks like it's destroyed.
As local officials sweep HasanAbi Island to find survivors, some evacuees are returning to see the damage firsthand, like the Jankowskis brothers who took a boat here.
devastation is unreal. You know, it's kind of sad to see. It's horrible. I mean, you walk down these streets, you can't even recognize what streets they are. It's a tragedy, and that's all you can pretty much say.
Florida officials have defended the timing of evacuation orders here in Lee County, which went into effect less than 24 hours before Ian churned ashore. They've said that they issued those.
There's not enough time. It's just not. It's not enough time either.
Went into effect as soon as the storm's track put the county in the bullseye. But take a look. Forecasts from the days leading up to landfall show that at least parts of the county were always within Ian's projected cone, even when a direct hit looked unlikely. President Biden is expected to visit the region tomorrow. Tony?
Manny, as a former Floridian, I will say, even when people have those warnings, a lot of folks just don't want to get out. They trust riding it out in their home, and you can see the damage there behind you. Manny, thank you very much.
Russian troops are on the run in the east and the
All it takes is one evacuation order, then the storm misses for the next order to be ignored. It's tough. Relevant right now? Oh, yeah, this.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, that all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet by the next 100 years, and it puts all the low-lying areas on the coast underwater, right? Which, let's say all of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
whole problem. Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
So let's say.
So funny. Classic. Biden's doing a hurricane tour. Yeah, I know.
President Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden on the ground in Puerto Rico today, where power and water still not fully restored 4 weeks after Hurricane Fiona. ABC's Mary Bruce traveling with the president, who told Puerto Rico today he's committed to the island.
President Biden set off for Puerto Rico today, eager to assure people here that they have not been forgotten.
Yeah, right.
Been taken very good care of. We've been trying like hell to catch up from the last hurricane.
It's been 5 years since Hurricane Maria killed roughly 3,000 people. A lot of badly needed aid then held up by the Trump administration. 2 weeks ago, Puerto Rico hit again. Hurricane Fiona knocking out power across the island. Tonight, some 100,000 households remain in the dark. So many lives uprooted. Neri Aruno grows emotional, telling me all she has is what she could carry with her. Everything she left behind, now destroyed.
Ahora mismo, no sé qué hacer.
Right now, I don't know what to do, she says. The government right now only cares about themselves. They care about the people that have money. President Biden has already pledged $2 billion to help rebuild. Today, he announced an additional $60 million.
I'm determined to help Puerto Rico build faster than in the past and stronger and better prepared for the future.
So important not to forget Puerto Rico got hammered by Fiona weeks ago. And Mary, the president, he travels now to Florida on Wednesday after Hurricane Ian.
David, the president will be getting a firsthand look at the devastation and recovery effort there on Wednesday. One big question, though, will he meet with rival Republican Governor Ron DeSantis? Tonight, the White House isn't saying, but they are stressing this is not about politics. It's about the people of Florida.
I don't even think Ron DeSantis wants to meet with him.
David.
Yeah, really, both sides.
Anyway, DeSantis defending Lee officials. Don't forget Sunday 11 a.m. advisory. It was going to go Taylor County in North Florida. But that's not the full story. Same forecast showed Ian could hit almost exactly where it did near Lee, the south edge of the cone.
Why do you stand behind Lee County's decision to not have that mandatory evacuation until the day before the storm?
Well, where was your industry station when the storm hit? Were you guys in Lee County? No, you were in Tampa. So that's, they were following the weather track, and they had to make decisions based on that. But, 72 hours, they weren't even in the cone. 48 hours, they were on the periphery. So you got to make the decisions the best you can. I will say, they delivered the message to people. They had shelters open. Everybody had adequate opportunity to at least get to a shelter within the county. But, a lot of the residents did not want to do that.
Ron DeSantis making it seem like random CNN reporter has a lot to do with the deaths of this hurricane. I get what he's trying to say. He's like, well, you didn't know either. Okay. But really, really incredible debate lord energy coming from this motherfucker right now.
I think probably for various reasons, some people just don't want to leave their home, period. They're island people, whatever. But I think part of it was so much attention was paid to Tampa that I think a lot of them probably thought that they wouldn't get the worst of it. So, but they did. And I think it's easy to second guess them, but they were ready for the whole time and made that call when it was justifiable to do so.
Some of their neighboring counties, though, did have mandatory evacuations before Tuesday.
Well, right. But our neighboring, if you look at Tuesday morning,
one of the chat said it is CNN's job to tell people, bro, what are you talking about? You think if the fucking officials are not saying there's a mandatory evacuation order, CNN is supposed to what? Do lie? CNN's about to be like, sorry, we interrupt this broadcast to say there's a mandatory evacuation order. The CNN has ordered everyone to evacuate their homes immediately.
They had moved the track down. Models started showing it going to like Sarasota, so so they did that. I was in Sarasota that day with them when they were expanding some of their evacuations. Charlotte, I think, did the same thing either Monday night or Tuesday morning. But don't forget Sunday, 11 a.m. advisory, it was going to go to Taylor County in North Florida. And so, at some point you got to look to see kind of where this thing is going. So, yeah, no,
this is a fucking hurricane, man. It doesn't move in the way that you know it's supposed to, so you have to counter in the probability. I know chatters who are fucking Florida brain permanently are like, well, what if the hurricane doesn't actually hit and then there's a mandatory evacuation in your neighborhood and then you're never going to fucking evacuate again? It's like, no, man, you're still supposed to evacuate next time. Victim blaming. Wait, you think Ron DeSantis is a victim of this hurricane? What the fuck's wrong with you? 100 people died, and the numbers are probably higher. If you ever been to 38, it's fucking gorgeous. You should take a trip and try to talk shit the whole time you're there. I'm so glad the Weather Channel still feels the need to put their host directly in harm's way so we can all see how serious hurricane wind speeds can get. My second favorite part of a hurricane, second only to the people of Florida getting a much needed mandatory bath. Okay, chill, man. People have died. Lots of folks see the forecast cone and focus too much on the center. Remember, there's a 66% chance the eye will pass somewhere in the cone. The highest chance Sunday was Ian hitting Taylor, but there was a reasonable chance of Lee too. Look at 2 p.m. Monday and 8 a.m. Tuesday. The long-delayed evacuation of a high-risk area seemed troubling and suspicious, and it was. The forecasts were good, but the response to them was botched with deadly consequences. Collier, Lee, Charlotte, and Sarasota look threatened throughout. That long-delayed evacuation of a high-risk area seemed troubling and suspicious, and it was. We've been investigating delayed evacuations in Lee County, says the national correspondent for the New York Times, Mike Baker, where Hurricane Ian's death toll is at 16 and rising. Governor DeSantis, a local leader, said that officials acted in a swift response to forecast, but there's much more to the story. Anyway, DeSantis wouldn't be evil enough to purposely not evacuate until the last second to create a political disaster for Biden, right? No. I think it's more so just negligence. It's expensive to evacuate. That's it. Especially because a lot of these areas are rich neighborhoods too. So they wouldn't let rich people die. What are you, crazy? Not deliberately, at least. It's mostly just negligence. After all, they are Florida men and Florida women. And if there's one thing I know from my time in Florida, motherfuckers love downplaying the severity of two things: the likelihood of an alligator attack and hurricanes. Okay? I think we're underestimating how intrusive and taxing packing up all your shit in a few hours like you're never going to return or to evacuate is. People don't want to do that shit if they don't have to. No, I get it. Yeah, Hasan, did you forget some people couldn't afford to evacuate? Dude. You're just giving more additional reasons as to why Ron DeSantis is bad while fucking yelling at me for some reason. Like, what am I supposed to fund low income people's evacuations? Like, why are you yelling at me about this? This is the responsibility of a government. The state of Florida should have been on the job. That's what a responsible state does. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis is like a couple days prior flying out Venezuelan migrants from fucking Texas to Martha's Vineyard. What do you mean? Should have flown those motherfuckers to Martha's Vineyard. Insane. 5 days after landfall, and I'm astonished no one is talking about one of the most important hurricane forecasting lessons learned just 18 years ago. Does nobody remember things beyond what happened last year? From the 2004 Hurricane Charlie NWS Service Assessment. They predicted that Charlie was going to make landfall near Tampa Bay, Florida as a Cat 3 throughout most of its lifetime. NHC had placed much of Florida's Gulf Coast under hurricane watches and warnings approximately 24 to 36 hours before landfall, and they had highlighted the area for possible landfall for 4 days. However, a slight easterly shift in Charlie's track towards the coast south of Tampa less than 3 hours before landfall caused some coastal residents to feel they had inadequate time to prepare. Media and residents seem to have focused only on the exact forecasted track of the center of Charlie, rather than the cone of uncertainty which the NHC had included in the track forecast. I have family in Sanibel, and they didn't leave. They are Trump morons. They ended up having to be airlifted with a helicopter. Not surprising in any meaningful capacity.